Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! I'm ready to fight this one hard. So, John, if you want to
See,
get a
I'm
word in,
gonna
you go ahead.
see. I
Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Targeting Podcast. The boys are back. I got Justin and John here with me. Boys, how we doing today?
Doing wonderful.
Absolutely great. Let's get it.
Love to
Let's
hear.
get it.
Love to hear. As always, like and subscribe to the video. We got a lot to talk about today. So you guys want to start off? We'll start off with Player of the Week first.
Well, we
Yeah,
can go
all right.
right into our NBA discussion for me, because I think we all know who my athlete of the week is going to be. It was a pretty stellar week from this man.
Okay.
62 points. And also an unbelievable shot in the last game with that. He had like three guys on him, just bodying three guys and just throwing it up. Steph Curry.
Yeah.
62 points. That's just unbelievable, And there hasn't been too much with sports recently, but in the NBA, that definitely was heard by everybody. Now, I'm a little, butthurt that Steph and Tobias Harris got the.
It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible. I don't
terrible.
understand how you don't give it to Jaylen Brown in the East. I don't understand.
And let me just say, Tobias Harris, yeah, you're having a good start to the season, but you have so many other players around you that carry you. And
we're talking about a Tobias Harris week where he averaged 23 points that week. Didn't average a double or anything. Like, it was just like, what's special about Tobias Harris that random week
of all players
where Jaylen Brown, where Jaylen Brown is the number one in points in all of basketball, and we picked up a bunch of big wins that week, and somehow Tobias Harris gets it. I don't understand what that is either.
As much as I want to give it to Jaylen Brown, again, I would have if he won that, but since he didn't, I'm going to give it to Steph because he won it, and I don't believe Tobias deserved it, so I'm going to go with Steph.
Yeah, well, I'll just go ahead and go as well. And Jerry, you might be on the same page as us as well. But mine is also Steph Curry. A crazy week. He averaged 35, 6 and 6 this week through 3 games. Had his career high 62 versus Portland, which for Steph to come out and put up that game was pretty incredible to watch. I mean, having a tough year for the Warriors, obviously starting off tough this season. Steph was getting a lot of hate, and he just came out and shut everyone the fuck up. I mean, really just a incredible performance.
Yeah. I want to say my player was Steph. I didn't realize all three of you had it. So I have another player in mind, but I'm going to
go for it.
All right. I'll switch it up. All right. just to be clear, though, we're not discounting anything Steph Curry did this week, because man literally carried this team back to where they needed to be. And I'm excited for the rest of his career. But
they'd be 4-4 without Clay. But
I just think he's an unbelievable player, and I knew he was mad about the past performances. It wasn't even his fault. I mean, you're getting double, triple team. You can't really help that. But I'll switch it up for my player of the week. You guys not gonna agree with this, because you guys don't really like him, but I do. And I'm gonna go with Baker Mayfield because he got the Browns to the playoffs.
Barely.
Yeah, you got him there. 196 yards.
No, I won't discount it because the NFL.
Wait. I want to hear stat line, Jerry, too. Actually, you finish up, John. Sorry.
I was just gonna say I'm not gonna discount that. I know Jerry has been rooting for him. It's a little biased one because I think a lot of other guys performed a little better. Like, I think it was Lockett had 2 touchdowns and 90 yards on 12 receptions. But I'll give you the Baker Mayfield. So we'll explain the stat line now, so everyone knows.
All right. So passing, right? About like a 60% completion rate. A little higher.
How many yards?
Yeah, how many yards?
196.
Oh, under 200.
Had a touchdown, and he got 44 rushing yards on 6 carries.
Well, the important thing was the win. So, it was a good week for him.
The important thing was a win. All right, so I'll give you that. I think the stats there are more for the team than Baker, but obviously te's the QB.
Team of the week. It's like it's a player.
Right. No, but I will give it to you. I will give it to you because we're changing it up. But I'm still gonna keep Steph because I went with him, and I think it's fine if Justin and I have the same one this week.
Oh, no doubt.
No, it's not a problem. I'm gonna switch it up.
No, I like it, and we'll obviously get into it in-depth discussion of all of the wild card weekend matchups in a few here. But definitely a big week from Baker and the Browns. Needed that win and they got it. So yeah, I like it.
Do you guys want to dive more? We're gonna talk about both. Do you guys want to start off with World Juniors or do you want to go with NBA? I guess we can quickly cover World Juniors. We'll do
Yeah,
that.
John, you want to start off with that?
Brief us with that game.
So World Juniors, I think I watched probably more than you two, but I know that Justin watched a little bit.
Yep, no doubt.
But
John, can you explain briefly for the people that might not know what it is?
World Juniors is basically, essentially, you can think of it as the Olympics, but it's a tournament for 16 to 20-year-old players from across the globe. But I forget how many teams exactly make it, but there's obviously like a seeding. So obviously, this year teams like Austria and Germany made it, but in years past, Kazakhstan has made it. It depends on how good they do in an entry level, like preseason.
Yeah, and like a lot of the players in it will be rookies next week when the NHL is starting up next week. They'll be coming in. They just got drafted in this past draft class, and they'll be the incoming rookie. So it's these young prospects that haven't quite gotten to the NHL, but are just about to be there / got drafted and are about to start playing next week.
Right. And a lot of them, actually, which is interesting, and I'll go over that, but the U.S. actually was missing, I believe it was 7 key players who got drafted, and one of them obviously left. Actually, no, Canada was also missing some players as well. So obviously not everyone's there, so you got to work with what you got. But obviously the big name thing we got to know, USA beat Canada. And USA, without the pieces they had, and Canada with the strong offense that they had, and USA played some old school, sloppy here and there early on, but they ended up getting the win. They just put the puck on the net. And I think the big thing there is the attitude from, and I was going to give actually, I'm not going to say my player of the week is this because it's World Juniors and no one's going to know.
Props.
But I'll give props to Trevor Zegras, who had the most goals. And he went into that game and he said, because what happens is Devin Levi, who is the goalie for Canada, small kid. I don't even think he's exactly 6 foot standing in net. And if you go and I've looked at his Instagram, he looks so short. He looks like he's a freshman in high school. But the kid had 3 shutouts, the highest save percentage, and basically led Canada right now to that, almost back-to-back wins in the World Juniors. And he is a prospect for the Panthers. Spencer Knight over on USA, also a prospect for the Panthers. So 2 Panthers prospects going at each other. Both of them had unbelievable years.
That is crazy, and they have Sergei Bobrovsky anyway, so they're not even looking for a goalie.
They don't even need a goalie. The
Panthers
are pretty set for the future. Yep. And the United States going in, Trevor Zegras said, I think you're going to be surprised with us. I don't think Levi's been challenged as much as people have thought. He's played easier teams, and they haven't seen us come and lay the puck on him. And that's exactly what they did. They just put the puck on the net, redirected it, screens, everything you need to do. Because a goalie like, Levy, when you saw him, when you just throw a puck on net, his glove was ready at all times. So the U.S. just did unconventional things. They just put the puck on the net from the point, and they ended up winning that game. It was closer than people would have thought. Canada was on the ropes the whole game with them. And Spencer Knight made unbelievable saves, so that's another prop character that I'm going to have to give it to. And USA won, ended up without players that they had. And going into it even more, Canada beats Russia, which I don't think many people realize, and I'm going to give a fun stat, and I was telling Justin about it, but the Russian team had 1 righty, not counting their goalie. So for hockey, that is crazy. Substantial. For your power play, when you only have 1 righty, and if he's not out there, that really hurts with all lefties because then you're on an odd side. You're not getting the puck on the right angle, and goalies can predict a lefty shot a lot easier, if they know everyone's a lefty shooter. So Russia definitely wasn't as versatile enough to play a Canadian team like that. And they ended up losing to Finland, who came out smashing them.
Yeah, no, definitely a crazy game. And I know USA and Canada that was the matchup everybody wanted, and I'm glad that's the matchup that we ended up getting in the gold medal game there. I know on their way there, Canada had like a 16-2 win, and USA had like a 14-0 win or something like that. Like they've been walking through this tournament, just barreling through it, and I'm glad we ended up seeing USA versus Canada. And a hell of a game and a hell of a win for the red, white, and blue. We love to see it.
And going into it, my what the fuck moment. The Russian goalie, Askarov, had a very interesting season, I think, with this. They lose to Finland. Russia's up 1-0 in that game, and they end up losing 4-1. Now, Finland was a good team, but they weren't as good as one would think, but they were still a good team. And Russia really struggled, I think, especially after the fact that they lost to Canada to go to that gold medal game. And Askarov, my what the fuck moment, if you go back and look at some of those highlights, Mr. Butterfingers over here. No goalie should be losing their stick 2 to 3 times, I believe, over the course of the game, without even a player hitting him. He moved from post to post, and his stick came out of his hand.
Like dropped his stick?
Yep.
Oh,
So
wow.
then a player had to give him his stick, and players do that. But now that's a player without a stick, and you can't do anything without your stick, really.
It's just you're playing shorthanded for no reason.
You're playing shorthanded, and the player's stick really does you no justice, especially when it's the opposite hand. And they score 2 goals on screens, and Canada just lifts themselves up. And I'm
That
gonna
is surprising.
have to blame that completely on Askarov, because you cannot be losing your stick in a big game like that without anyone touching it. There wasn't any battling in front of the net.
It's weird to see a goalie at that high level have that happen, because
I know.
That's what you do. You're a goalie. You got to hold on to that stick with everything you possibly can. I mean, you can't be letting go of that. That's crazy. That's very surprising.
So that's one of my what the fuck moments. I have 2 this episode, but that's one of them. The other one's going to be for later. But I just seeing that, I had to write it down, because there's no reason. And hockey fans watching this are going to know there's no reason a goalie should lose their stick unless it's absolutely ripped out of their hands or they're barreled into. You got to
hold on to that timber.
Yeah.
Good point.
So that's my overview of that.
All right. Love to hear, John. Always love the background. Love the red, white, blue one.
Exactly.
USA, baby.
USA.
So, all right. Now we'll go back to the NBA. So I think Steph was like the big thing this week. 62 points.
So we had a couple of 60 balls this week. Beal dropped 60 last night too. So
he did in a loss.
Bradley Beal in a loss. And that Washington Wizards team has been losing a lot. They've been losing a lot of games.
I'm
Russell Westbrook
that they
continuing to just play Russell Westbrook style basketball. He's put up some crazy numbers. He's had like a triple double in damn near every single game so far for them. But they're losing a lot. And I don't know if they're still stuck on 1 win, but I know their first win was without Russ. So something's not working, and it's just the same thing that is always not working about Russell Westbrook basketball teams.
They're 2-6, and
so they did get a second win. Okay,
the Wizards team is going to have to. It's an uphill battle from here, because the rate they're playing, they won't be making the playoffs.
I agree. I mean, they won't be. There are a lot of good teams in the East, and we're far enough into the season at this point. It was one thing when they were 2-0 or 3-0 or whatever. But now we're far enough into the season, almost 10 games in, where the Cavs and the Magic and the Hawks, we actually need to legitimately start talking about them, because they're playing damn good basketball. The Orlando Magic are one of the best teams in the East. And I mean, I'm surprised. We did just see Markelle Fultz go down with a torn ACL. He's done for the year.
So that actually sucks for them. So I think that
actually
the Magic have had a really hot streak. So there's 3 teams that are on my radar right now besides the Celtics, because the Celtics are climbing recently, except for those losses, obviously, to the Nets. We got to fix that. And that one devastating one to the Pistons, which is, it happens. You're going to always lose to a team like that sometimes. But the 76ers are on the climb. I don't give Tobias Harris any credit. I think
which we should talk about Philly too, because
I think Philly has picked up a lot of great pieces that has led them to 7-1, and now this is a team that I actually am scared to play. The Nets, another team that I'm scared to play, and they're only 4-4. The Bucks are still below us; they're climbing, but Magic lose Markelle, so that's going to hurt them. They're 6-2. They're right on the asses of the 76ers, but losing Fultz for the season is definitely going to be a blow to that team. I don't know if that's going to absolutely drop them out of.
So, well, let me ask you both this. What do you think Cole Anthony, his role is going to be now? I mean, he's obviously going to need to be very good for them. Do you think he'll do it? You think he'll be able to play up to it?
I don't know, because when I'm looking at this now, the Pacers are same record as them, and the Pacers are another team that's just doing pretty hot early on. So I don't think you can rely on one player to carry you that far. I'm not saying you can't do it, but again, I'm saying you still have the Heat. We're still adjusting. They're 3-4, but I just think the Heat are still going to pull it off and come up. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last season, but I think they'll make it. You got the Nets and the Hawks who are definitely going to make it. I think the Knicks will fall out. But with that, it's a very competitive East now, more so than we originally thought. I don't think I think the Magic have a chance to make it, but I think that they're going to be fighting for a wild card spot. They're going to be fighting for a spot there. And it's going to be tough without Fultz. And I think Cole Anthony could do it, but again, with all those other teams having all their pieces, it's highly unlikely.
I mean, I think it could go either way. I think Cole Anthony, from what I saw at UNC, told me he couldn't lead a team, and he got very lucky to the fact that March Madness didn't happen, because if people found out UNC didn't make the tournament, which was going to happen, then I think he would have got. I think his draft stock would have probably fell personally. However, I think that now you're in the NBA, you got better players on your team. You got Fournier, you got other guys, so I feel like he could do it with this team, but it definitely will be like on him to really elevate them. I don't know if he does it. I think I kind of agree with John. I think they'll be trying to fight to get in. You also have to consider that this is a shortened season. So
that's another thing. Yep.
You have to, it's not every single game counts, but you kind of you can't lose a lot.
Every single game does count. Like it kind of does. And a short season like this, you can't. You can lose one or two here or there, yeah, but like
slow starts are going to be Slow starts
are not good.
Yeah, they're going to be
like the Toronto Raptors. Toronto Raptors are not going to make the playoffs. It looks like.
Yeah,
they're 1-6.
I'll tell you right now. I think we can already tell which teams are definitely not going to make it, at least for somewhat, in the bottom three. I think the Wizards are one of those three bottom teams that they could climb. But it's got to be a team effort, especially with Westbrook there now. He's got to really shape up and play the game that they're supposed to with Beal. Beal going off, and Westbrook, again, like you said, playing the game he plays, but not for the team here, it seems like. Getting the points that it needs.
I kind of saw this happening with the Wizards.
I'm not surprised it's happening.
I'm not,
but I'm shocked that Westbrook would let this happen.
The thing is, I don't even think they care that much, because here's why. They're putting up stats. Like, they're putting up numbers. They're not winning.
But they're not putting up wins.
I know, and I think they do care about that to some extent.
I think it's frustrating Beal, because Beal is a guy who has lost Wall for a couple seasons now, and they've lost their playoff run opportunities. He gets Westbrook. Westbrook comes early to practice. Westbrook puts in the effort, and now in the real games, Westbrook doesn't show up.
I mean, Beal is a winner. We all know that. But, I mean, I kind of underestimated this Eastern Conference. I don't know if you guys thought the same thing, but
no, I underestimated it too.
The Western Conference right now, we're not going to get into it just yet, but the Western Conference, there are 4 teams that are tied 4-4 and 5 that are tied 3-4. So right there, your top 3 teams are already pulled ahead pretty much and are already pretty much set for the time being. And one of them we didn't even see coming, the Suns.
Yeah, the East has been weird. Just teams that you didn't think were going to win, like the Cavs being 4-4, and then even the Nets being 4-4 confuses me a lot, because
they seem like they've been the best team in basketball.
They seem like they've acted like the best team in the Eastern Conference. Yet they'll lose games where you're like, wait a minute, you lost to that?
But you know what? That's fine for the Celtics, because if the Celtics have to play them a couple times and we only lose to them, or we're only struggling with them and they don't make it, that's fine with me. We'll figure it out in the longer run. I'm really concerned at the moment with the 76ers, the Pacers. I'm still, with that record there, I just don't know what they're doing. But we obviously have to.
We already have played Indy twice this year, and they've been good games. I mean, we split them with them 1-1. Yeah. And both went down the wire, both great games. In fact, the second game that we did end up winning, we came back from down 17 in the second half. So they've shown that they can control us too. The East is definitely looking really good. I'll tell you what, I'm less scared of Milwaukee than I am of some other teams, like you just mentioned, Philly and Brooklyn and so on.
Oh yeah, I'm
Philly
less scared of the Bucks.
It's become clear that Philly has done exactly what they needed to do. We had mentioned this too before the season started on targeting here, but that Philly for years with Brett Brown and I forget their GM's name, but that's going to kill me. But anyways, have just been not making the right moves to bring success to Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid as a duo. And that this offseason, bringing in Doc Rivers and Daryl Morey, the old Rockets GM, just like they're actually making the right moves now, and they've made them, and they look really good. Bringing in the shooting that they needed was key with Steph Curry and Danny Green.
I think that's the number one team that we have to probably put a star next to look at.
The key thing for Doc is playoffs. We all know that.
Yeah.
It is.
Oh,
It is the
really?
key thing. It is very important.
Let me ask you guys a question, both of you, because I got one for you.
All right, let's hear it.
Katie and Kyrie, do you think they last? And when I mean last, it could be a multitude of things. It could be injuries, it could be chemistry. But do you think they last all season together and can make a run for the championship? Do you think they can kind of make this thing work in Brooklyn this season?
Well, I think there's definitely a problem in Brooklyn. I don't know what it is, but you're going 4-4 with two superstars. And another thing is, we saw the other night a little frustrated, or not the other night, but we saw. God, Justin, you're gonna know, but in the game where they could have tied it up, all they needed was a bucket, and Kyrie.
Yeah, it was against the Wizards.
Yep, the Wizards. Kyrie pulls up,
Wizards
shoots. He hits the rim. He hits a nice little brick, and that's fine. You're not going to make everything, but Katie comes in with a wide open shot and puts it exactly where Kyrie does, and that's got to be frustrating when you're two superstars, the two guys that can make those shots. Katie a little close in the paint and Kyrie a little bit outside, can't make the game-winning shot. And I'm not going to blame that completely on them, but you can't lose to the Wizards. I'm not saying the Wizards aren't good, but you can't be losing to them if you're going to have a team like that for the Nets. So the Nets really should be 5-3 right now. They should be farther up. And I think that we're definitely seeing that they got some kryptonite. There's going to be a weakness there, and we have to exploit it. And the Celtics obviously have played them twice, so we see it. We got to realize it, and we got to watch it. But I don't know if they're going to necessarily. I think they might make the playoffs still, but I don't know if they're going.
I think they'll make the playoff. Justin, go ahead. What are your thoughts?
I think that they definitely are a playoff team. I think there's no way they miss the playoffs. But that being said, I think that their worst nightmare is themselves. Their biggest problem will be themselves. I like what you're saying a lot too. I think that they're bound to, the longevity of the season is the biggest issue for them. They're bound to run into issues with just such hot personalities, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. And losing Spencer Dinwiddie did not help. He was definitely a guy that could come in, run the offense, be a second mind to just cool things down off of Kyrie, the level he plays at. So it's losing Spencer Dinwiddie for the entire season is a bad loss for them. I do think that there's no way they miss the playoffs, though. I like Joe Harris. They've had Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot playing better than he ever has in his entire goddamn career. I've never seen so many minutes from TLC. And the fact that I'm even calling him TLC is because the announcers do, because he's that household of a name now. And I can't even believe it, but he's been playing well for them. It's just like every time I look out there, I see Timothy Luwawu-Cabarrot splashing threes. I'm beside myself. But
I think we're in agreement, though, they're making it to the playoffs.
Well, they're definitely making the playoffs. I just think it's interesting how it seems like they play up to their competition. Like when they know they got guys today, it's like the Celtics. Like when they're playing like guys like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and just other good teams.
Oh, if it's a big game on national TV, they're going to play.
They're playing well, but as soon as it's a team like the Wizards or the Hawks, I mean, the Hawks are not that bad, so I'm not going to shit on them.
But you can't lay your foot off the pedal.
But it's when they face teams like that, they got this like chip on their shoulder, this unnecessary chip on their shoulder that's just going to automatically win the game. Which clearly,
that's where the season's a grind. The season's a long grind. It's not easy to play in this league. And that's where guys like that, you see that they're not motivated. They're not energized to go out and play those games on those smaller nights where they're not on national TV and you're playing a below 500 team.
And honestly,
when you're Kyrie and Katie not making those shots and you're playing a team, again, way below 500, still a good team. You can't lay your foot off the pedal. Again, you still got Bradley Beal putting up amazing points the other night. You can't lay off the pedal. And I think, we're not in question on the Nets making it, but we're in question on how they're going to perform going into the playoffs. You don't have Dinwiddie. And another big thing is Kyrie, we have seen, gets injured later in the season sometimes, pretty often than not, with a small injury, sometimes the thumb, shoulder, whatever it be. And KD does too sometimes. So I'm not going to be surprised if one of them gets injured with a small thing, is kept out of a lot of games for the future, but that really hurts their chances in fighting for that playoff spot still. They'll make it, but it's not going to be an easy road for them if they're going to lay off the pedal on these easy teams. The East is looking tough.
The thing is, I think Justin put it perfectly. They're their own worst enemy, and I think they'll get to the playoffs. But honestly, they're just making it harder for themselves. They are the team that can get the 1 seed. They can make it so that they're basically home. They have most of their games at home and Brooklyn for the playoffs. But if they want to slack off and they want to get that 4 or 5 seed, they definitely can do that. They probably could do it with like just sending one out and playing one in. But the problem with that is you're just making it harder on yourself. So I don't know why they don't just. You're clearly beating these good teams. The Celtics, friggin' they beat the Warriors. I mean, with Curry, and you're losing to like Hawks, the Wizards, like these random ass games, and it's like you're making it harder for yourself come playoff time. You can
I
make
think
it
their home court is going to be vital for them because home court they perform. They seem to perform.
You know what this team reminds me of? This team reminds me a lot of the Clippers from last year, where you have that just monstrous duo, but it's also a deep team. But you have these two main guys that you know the entire offense runs through both of these guys at different times or whatever. But these are your two guys. And then when they got to the all regular season, coast. Yeah, we'll play the big games on national TV when it's a Battle of LA. We're going to get the big win against the Lakers, stuff, which they did. They won a lot of big games on national TV. But when it came time to the playoffs, they did not have the team chemistry developed. They were not playing in a system. They were losing basketball games in the playoffs, and they ended up getting eliminated because they just didn't. You can't coast all regular season. There's a point to putting in the work for 82 games or 72 this year. There's a point to playing all of them. And I could see this Nets team. I could see this Nets team being very similar. Where, like you had just mentioned it too, Jerry, a minute ago when you said they show up for big games. They play very well on big nights. They play well on big nights, which makes you think when you get to the playoffs, maybe you never know because they play well on big nights. The playoffs are the biggest nights of them all. Yeah. They'll probably play well. But we said the same thing all year last year with the Clippers. And at the end of the day, chemistry is more important than just raw skill. Yeah, when it comes to the playoffs, you need to play as a team. Shooting percentages go down in the playoffs because you learn how to play systematic defense against the same team for 7 straight games. That's a whole different type of offense to run. Yeah. And chemistry is so important. They could definitely face issues.
I'm just looking at the scores right now because I'm just curious on some of the other losses they had. The Grizzlies in OT. That shouldn't happen. I'm sorry.
That was without Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson.
And that was out Ja Morant. So that shouldn't happen. Great. Hornets, you lose by 2, which is just that's
just the Hornets balling out. I like the Hornets a lot this year. I don't know if I've said that on targeting yet, but Hornets are my second team this year. I
think the Hornets are definitely doing like very well considering the teams they've been playing and the new pieces they have. I think they've definitely lived up to a lot of the hype. But again, the record is not what you would hope.
It's not even like the fact that they're losing to these teams too. It's because it's not like they're barely winning every single game. They beat the Celtics by what, 20 or 30 points? So
I know, and they beat the Warriors by 30 or 40.
And they split with the Hawks.
That's a comfortable win. So the fact that you're losing these like nitty gritty games to these not that great teams, they're still good, but they're not that great.
Yeah, you lose to the Wizards by 1. You beat the Jazz by 34.
That hurts you, and I think they're going to realize that eventually. But they better realize it soon because it's a short season, and if you start to slack off in those, and they have to realize, especially this year. You're not dealing with there's no distinction between bum ass teams and really great teams. They're all kind of pretty good. Some nights they're better, some nights they're worse. So you're going to have to play consistently because across the league, in my opinion, I don't know if you guys have seen this, but there's not really like a bum ass team. Like
there's no nights off in this league.
The Suns used to be.
We just went against maybe the arguably worst team. We just played a series against them 2 games in Detroit. Probably the worst team as far as just the roster on paper goes. We split them 1-1, and both games went down to last shot.
I'm not saying
that's a good team.
I'm not saying the Celtics took their foot off the pedal, but it's a good team still. So the Celtics got to realize when you go and play that good team, you got to play them like any team.
I don't even think they took their foot off the pedal. I just think some bad teams have good nights, and
they do. No, they do, and we split with them. So it shows that after that bad night, we came back, we did what we had to do. But you're gonna have bad nights.
And that's just got to be careful because, obviously you'll make the playoffs, and I'm sure you will, and I'm sure you'll get a decent seed too. But you're going to just make it harder on yourself come playoff time when you just think it's tough. Like Justin said, that was a great comparison between the Clippers, where it's just like, all right, it's a big night every night. We're going to win all the time because every night's a big night. But the problem is when you play every night like it's a big night, you're going to run out of fuel. There's gonna
Yeah.
you can't play every night like there's a big night.
And-
You have to
and-
have times where other players take over. That's where the chemistry comes in, because some player will play a good game one night. You might not play a great game the other night, but your other player should have your back at that time.
That's the thing with basketball. It's with any sport, but that's especially with basketball. You can't coast like this because the whole team's got to get like the Celtics do it perfectly. Every guy's getting minutes. Again, another thing we haven't talked about, Pritch getting that game winner.
Oh my
getting
God!
you're getting the young
Game winner
guys.
last night. Shout out to Pritch.
Shout out to
Love
Pritch.
him.
Honestly, I would give him the athlete of the week if I could, but just that game winner can't do it for him. But
My hot
what the Celtics do best is you give these guys, these young guys, minutes, even in the clutch times when you're down, and you're giving them the confidence that they can carry that team through it. You're not just putting all the rookies out there, but you're putting one or two. And we saw Pritch come out and ball out. He struggled the first couple games with some of his shots, but he's been improving. That's what these teams have to realize. And that's the thing that sometimes the Nets are going to take for granted, losing Dinwiddie and trying to rely just on Kyrie, KD. And that's
I can just see the future, I feel like, with this team a little bit, because I remember when Kyrie was in Boston and we were going into the playoffs, and Kyrie was relying on iso ball to play in a playoff series against the Milwaukee Bucks, and we got eliminated in the game 5 against Milwaukee. We got eliminated. Kyrie was like 4 of 21, and that's what happens when you play iso ball for the 5th straight night against the Milwaukee Bucks. I can see what's going to happen with this Nets team. I can definitely feel like chemistry is going to be a big issue for them. And chemistry is everything in the playoffs. It's everything.
And you can't, like, that's the thing. That's a great example. You can't go into every game trying to play the exact same scenario when it's not working for you, especially against a team like the Bucks, or eventually it's going to be a team like the 76ers or the Celtics. But I mean, obviously they beat the Celtics, but you can't rely on beating the Celtics every time just because you beat them twice. That's not how basketball works.
The thing is, they play the big time games against the worst teams in the fourth quarter. Like, that's when they show up. And it's like, you can't just coast the entire game and expect to come out in these last few seconds, because that's what they've been trying to do. Just win it, like, on a game-winning shot at these last seconds. You're not going to do that.
And they failed on those 2 opportunities wide open that they had with Kyrie and KD.
That's how you accumulate losses, and it's gonna be shitty for you when you come playoff time. You're on a home court advantage, and you very well could have been. But All right,
you want to get into your hot take, Jay?
I
know yours is about Peyton Pritchard. We were just talking about it.
You're not gonna like it.
Really? All right, let's hear it.
All right, I like Peyton Pritchard as a player.
No.
Personally, I think we're giving him a little too much minutes.
Oh no.
And I think the Celtics have a minor problem of playing like guys that shouldn't necessarily be playing.
Oh no. I'm ready to fight this one hard. So John, if you want to get a word in, you go ahead.
See, I can't, I'm not going to attest to anything about necessarily Pritch. I like him.
No, I like
Pritch.
I think
No. You had your moment. You had your moment to speak. You'll get your rebuttal. I think that, Pritch is a great player. He's obviously proved it last night, especially with the game winner. I think Justin's got more of a personal note with this man, And
no, I'm not even going to make it about that. It's completely
okay. No. But I'm just going to say you got a little bit more of a personal thing. So I'll let you handle that one if you want to, or you can take it somewhere else. But I think that the thing I like most about the Celtics is that we come out to play for all those minutes, and then we give some of these younger guys some minutes. I don't think we should be giving them minutes necessarily in the clutch times all the time. I think we choose it selectively, but I trust our system. I think the teams that we need to focus on more are the Nets, obviously, and the 76ers, and we can't be giving up those games with that. But I trust the system. It's been working. It looks like it's working. If it starts to fail, then I'll agree with you. But for the time being, Pritch showed up. Edwards showed up the other night. I'm just going to keep it the way I see it. Okay. And that's just how I see it.
Okay, Justin, go ahead.
All right, my thing. I'm gonna go ahead and talk about your comment saying that the Celtics have a habit of playing young guys too much, more than they deserve, rather than go at Peyton Pritchard individually. Because we'll deal with that later. No.
It's his turn to speak.
I'll let you get your word in, Jerry.
I just want to clarify. Peyton Pritchard is the example I am proving.
Okay.
He is generally.
My exact take would be the complete opposite. I believe that the Celtics don't give the young guys enough minutes at all. We saw it last year with Brad Wanamaker. We're seeing it again this year by signing Tristan Thompson and signing Jeff Teague, two average bench players that we brought in because we didn't want Peyton Pritchard and Robert Williams getting the direct backup minutes because they were too young. And we've seen the past few years, we've seen Carson Edwards, Trey Waters, Romeo Langford, Aaron Nesmith, Peyton Pritchard, all of these guys be nothing. Besides Peyton, arguably now is turning into something. All of Shemi Ojale, Grant Williams, all of these guys have turned into almost nothing because we don't give them any opportunity. These guys Danny Ainge has been such a genius in that he's brought in so many draft picks to Boston that weren't originally ours, that we have this surplus of young stars that will never be anything in green because they don't have an opportunity to be. Carson Edwards could be a great backup point guard. Not here, he can't be. Peyton Pritchard, I think Peyton Pritchard will be our great backup point guard. He won't be this season when Jeff Teague. When Kemba comes back, Jeff Teague can be the backup, and Peyton's minutes will go way down. Romeo Langford might never be anything. Aaron Nesmith, I love Aaron Nesmith, but he might never be. He hasn't gotten any minutes. Grant Williams and Ojale are like the same player. We're gonna have to pick one of them. Neither of them really get many minutes either. We have so many young guys. Robert Williams, I'm ready to take the next step with Time Lord, and nobody and the organization isn't because he's too young. He's too raw still, they believe. So we got Taco Fall, we got Trey Waters. There's just unlimited young guys that will never be anything because we don't have an opportunity. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. We're a winning team. That's why we don't have an opportunity. We're competing for a championship. And I would never trade those two things. But we have a lot of young talent that gets wasted because we don't have enough minutes to go around.
I think we do have minutes for some of them, but again, it's tough to pick and choose because you have to, some nights Pritch is going to get more. Then we saw Nesmith get some more one night. You're going to have to balance that, which is tough. It's a good problem to have. You're trying to get these guys some minutes, but you can't give them all of it. But you brought up a good point. You have all these young players, and eventually other teams are going to want them. And that's going to be our bargaining chip. And I'm not saying we're going to get rid of all of them, but, definitely, like you said, they're not staying in green. At least all of them are.
Here's my point I'm trying to make. I'm not trying to take on Peyton Pritchard. I like Peyton Pritchard. And it's not him specifically. It's generally, it seems like we're always a young team, right? When Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown came in, right, we were considered a young team, right? They're still young, don't get me wrong, but they're a little older now, right? And it seems like we're just back there. We're still a young team. At some point, to be competitive, you need to have, and the Celtics are doing this, but they don't have, in my opinion, that team. So you have to have a core group of guys, something like a LeBron, Anthony Davis, but I'm not saying like
we have that.
What is that?
Jalen Jason.
Come on. Like,
what do you mean? Come on. What do you mean?
We have Jalen Jason. We got Kemba.
We have Kemba Walker. We have a big three. Jalen Jason and Kemba Walker. That's our big three. Smart's our fourth option.
I just think that you need I think Jason and Jalen are still trying to become superstars. I do not think they're superstars yet. That could be a hot take.
I agree with you that we have always been a primarily young team. When you look at the average age of everybody on the roster, you take the average, we'd be a young team. Yes. But historically, we always have some other guy to take away some other older guy to take away the minutes from the young guys that we actually should just be giving them the minutes to. You look at the past 3 years. Who's been running our backup point guard when it should have been Carson Edwards or Trey Waters or Peyton Pritchard?
I agree.
Our backup point guards have been Shane Larkin. Why do we need him getting minutes? What is he going to do? Then it was Brad Wanamaker, and now it's Jeff Teague. I like Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague's really, really good, and I'm really happy with that signing. But I'm just saying we sign these veterans so that the young guys we don't rely on them. They're there to get some minutes and develop, but we don't rely on them because we have these other guys that will make the shot.
That's my whole point, though. We need to be consistently progressing younger guys and just keeping them on the roster instead of just keep keeping our picks and we keep adding them to the team to a point where we just have an overload of young guys. And as a result, you have a lot of good young guys. Like you said, Peyton Pritchard, Carson Edwards, Aaron Nesmith. We have all these good young guys who will never see the floor because there's just too many of them on the team.
It is certainly a hot take, and I certainly agree with you, though, that it's definitely going to be a struggle to balance all these great players that we have because we always seem to bring in great young guys. And it's a damn shame that there isn't, enough time in the game to put them all in because I think they'd all perform, at a stellar level. But
here's
the thing is that we can't.
Here's my point. All right, and then we can end this because I really want to talk about NFL. But
I know we actually have a lot of NFL to talk, and we're long into this one. Well, yeah, okay. Anyways, continue.
well, yeah, we'll
All right, last thing, Jerry. Get the last word.
Last thing I'll say. Celtics always want to start with 8 guys, and then just have an additional equally good, like 3 or 4 more guys. I was saying 5, that would have been too many. 3 or 4 more guys. When in reality, you need to have an obvious 8 or 9 players that you consistently play on a consistent basis, and then the other 3 don't play. It seems like they're always switching. Like, oh, Peyton Pritchard will play one night, Aaron Eastman will play another. No, shouldn't be like that. You should have a solid 8 guys that you can take out throughout the years so that core could develop. That's what the Celtics should do.
I agree, but you can't just walk in the door as a rookie and be that. You have to get some minutes to develop into that. And that's why I'm glad Peyton Pritchard is getting all the touches that he's getting, because Peyton Pritchard, ideally, I don't know how you guys feel. I know obviously we're all huge Celtics fans. Ideally for me as a Celtics fan, for the next many years down the line, I want Peyton Pritchard to be our 6th man, our backup point guard, our floor general to run the second unit. He could be a 6th man of the year. I could see it in my eyes right here.
That's I agree with that. I want that to happen. But the problem is, a lot of players, I don't know if he's different yet, but a lot of players don't want to accept that role. I thought Rozier was out for us, and then he's like, I know. So it's tough because not a lot of people want to just be on the bench for the rest of their lives, even though that's probably, no offense, where they belong. So it's really just, I agree. If he can accept that role, sign him to however long he wants. But I just think there's a lot of players who, at some point, they want that 6-man role to be a starting lineup position.
But we have to choose out of all those guys we got. You can't keep them all.
And you can't keep them all, and that's the point. I think eventually we're going to have to start just cutting down on those guys and just sticking with a core, like a real core.
I agree with you. I agree.
6 or 7 guys.
I see your hot take.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to go.
Right. We'll go NFL. I got to get a charger real quick, but let's go NFL.
Justin, you have your stat of the week, or you?
I do have my stat of the week. You want me to rip that?
Let's hear it.
All right. We'll just do it without John.
Don't do it without John, I guess.
On March, it's just a ridiculous stat line. One of the most, probably the craziest you'll ever hear. So on March 18, 1968, Wilt Chamberlain's stat line was 53 points, 32 rebounds, 24 blocks, 12 assists, 11 steals, a quintuple double with 50, 30, 20, 12, and 11. Like, are you kidding me?
Crazy.
Are you kidding me?
Crazy.
That's ridiculous. I don't understand. I can't fathom how that stat line existed in real life.
It's
53, 32, 24, 12, and 11.
It's sad that, John, we're just talking about Wilt's stat line.
Oh, yeah, I heard that.
53. I'll read it off for you one more time. Yeah, 53, 32, 24, 12, and 11. Quit playing with him. My God, quintuple double.
That's impressive, but that's never possible in this day and age.
Well, no, the basketball game back then was so much different, especially with his height and with his level and the way the game was played. You'll never see those numbers again. You'll see some of those numbers for like certain areas, but you're never going to see like that high. You know, you may see someone who's got a lot of rebounds and assists, but you're not going to see them get that many points. Like this,
Fair enough.
You know.